Hi, I'm Stan Stalnaker with Hub Culture here in the ICEhouse with William McDonough, the creative vision behind this beautiful space. This is the 5th year of the ICEhouse here, and probably 15 years of us knowing each other. And for the archives of the internet, the digital world around us, we thought it would be a great idea to just take a couple minutes and have a chat about the history of the ICEhouse, how it came to be, and some of your vision for the planet. This year in Davos, Hub Culture is focused on a theme that we call co-creating the future society, and it's a response to the Davos Manifesto tied to the 50th anniversary of the World Economic Forum. How do you envision your design language informing the future society?
Well, it is interesting in our world as architects and environmentalists and so on to think about designing for ecological systems. And the first thing you discover is you need design for not just ecosystems, but also egosystems. And so this notion of co-creation is actually critical because it's something we all do together. And this is certainly a case where we got together because your Hub Culture Davos is the warm place for those who are visiting here who aren't badged, for example, to get a cup of coffee and be with their colleagues and be welcome. And so you took care of someone that I had here that I wanted her to meet people, and you let her have a warm, safe place to be while we brought people to see her. And I remember thinking, if I can ever do anything with Stan and as a return the favor of this graceful hospitality, I will do it. And so right then it turned out all of a sudden you're downstairs going, I need more space. Yep. And so we said, well, why don't we do something about that?
Yep, I remember so well because we were standing in the cafe, and it was very crowded, and it's a beautiful, warm, friendly space, but there's not a lot of space, right? And I said, Bill, like, will you come with me? I just want to show you this thing. And so we went around the corner and into this little elevator of this apartment building, and we popped out onto the roof of the hub, right? Actually, right where we're standing here. Yeah. And I remember we looked around, and you saw the view, and you said, I have this idea because we've been working on this thing called Wonderframe. Yeah. Remember? And at that point, Wonderframe was still something that you were conceptualizing as a means for very low cost construction. Right. So can we start maybe like that moment? Yeah. That was when the journey started for us to build a building on top of another building that could be light enough to exist on top of a building. Because this is probably the lightest building of its size in the world.
It would be about the weight of a tent. Yeah. So. That's really what happened. We were standing right there, and we looked at these two mountains, and then put our arms out and said, we could do this. And then the idea of the Wonderframe is all these pieces that come together. There are only two pieces of structure, a diagonal and a straight. Mm-hmm. And so the idea that they would all come and to get assembled here, this is built in a day and a half, pretty much, assembled.
Yeah. You know what, it actually took longer to lay the carpet than it did to build the frame.
Yeah,
this year. One of the things that I find—
how long it took to invent the carpet.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fact that it's also a circular economy carpet that can go fully recycled is amazing. You know, I think one of the most gorgeous things about the ICEhouse is it's been built 6 times with these materials. And when we finish at the end of Davos, you can see it being carted away, the whole building, in one container. Right? It fits in one container.
120-foot container.
Yeah, and it's been 6 times rebuilt with the same materials.
Right. Well, when you think about the idea of a circular economy, it's about reuse, really. And because these are technical materials, we'd never say the words end of life, because I find that depressing. So we don't design for end of life. With technical materials, you design for end of use, which begs the question, what's the next use? That's the circular economy. So a building that can come back and be used over and over is a circular building. And that's why we call it ICEhouse, because it's not only a warm place and a cold place, and that's ironic, but it's innovation for the circular economy. So design for disassembly, fine. And then you have material banking, we call it, and so on. So the materials are actually considered valuable across generations.
I agree. And I think one of the interesting things then, after the building was built, has been what's happened here over the last 5 years. Because there have been some really seminal moments in the journey of many executives in large companies who are learning about the idea of reuse and the circular economy. So could you talk about a couple of the highlight moments from, what are some of your best moments in here over the last several years?
Well, for one, I remember Muhammad Yunus walking in and saying, oh, I understand.
Yeah.
And then he gave me a hug. I thought it was pretty nice.
I remember Paul Pullman and Kim Pullman, and we did a Imaginal Cells book launch, and it was a very cold morning, and everyone sat in here and had this moment of, at least for me, of kind of epiphany, where what she was talking about with Imaginal Cells was realized around us in the building. And then later that morning, Unilever did something with Paul, and I remember Paul said something along the lines of, if we can be in this building here, which is circular economy, built for a week in the middle of the Alps, our companies can become circular economy companies. And for me, that was like a kind of moment where I thought, you know, the structure matters so much, because when you put somebody in this place and you tell them that the chairs from Cartel are circular economy and the building is circular economy, and you know, you've frankly thought out every detail down to the carpet, it makes you realize that it's possible to get there. Mm-hmm. And then you actually think like, well, what kind of future do I want? And I think this goes back to where we started at the beginning of this conversation, is co-creating the future society. For me, this has become a vessel for Hub to be able to find its voice and its vision for the future society that we want to create over the next, say, 50 years. And so I feel like it has become, you know, we talked about signals earlier. You know, this is a crystal signal for Davos. And to me, it really expresses our highest ambitions of what we want to be as a company and as a community. So I thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. I think, and thank you for the chance to work on this. This, to me, is a lighthouse, literally. And I remember the first sketches we did, mm-hmm. looking down from the Congress Center, which is nearby. Yeah. This was like a little beacon, little lighthouse. Yeah. And I think the nice thing about that is when you come here, it's about illumination, mm-hmm. which is an interesting notion. Yeah. And transparency. And warmth, and collaboration, and all those things. But my favorite moment with Paul Pullman was when he looked around the room. He said, the reason this is a great room to think in is whenever you have a thought and your eyes go up and you want to have a lofty thought, and you look up and everything is perfect. Yeah. And so your thought congeals in this way that is not distracted by things, and you think about the power of a building or a space to help frame a thought. Yeah, is I think is one of my favorite parts of this.
I think before we wrap up, I think it's worth noting one of the consequences of the ICEhouse, and this was something that I think you and I dreamed of at the beginning, and now we're actually seeing it come to fruition, is that the idea of the ICEhouse is now being adopted by the community and remixed and reinterpreted. So you think about how the way content is sort of moved and co-created now on the internet. The idea of the building is now sort of being like sprouting like a plant in different areas. So if you think of this like a tree, and then we now have a beautiful building down here that has been built by the city of Davos, nothing to do with us, but it follows the design ethos of the polymers for a circular economy building down here. And then we have the new Tech Lodge, which explores timber, which is renewable, with polymers, which are circular economy. So there are now these little children of the ICEhouse here. What's your vision for how this could be wider applied in the world?
I think the most important thing is to connect the idea of ephemeral things with durable things, with eternal things. So you feel you're in a place and you're in time. And it's sort of the opposite of a toxin. A toxin is a material in the wrong place with the wrong dose and the wrong duration, right? Mm-hmm. Even water, something so gracious in life, can be a toxin if you surround yourself with it for 6 minutes. So the idea of something that is almost like a detox program, where you stop and realize that this can be a very short-term thing, and it's for a week. Mm-hmm. And then you can have things that are there for years, and then you have things that are eternal, and you can design in that way. And so for me, this building is actually an odd and fun element because we're in an eternal place, in effect, with these mountains.
Yeah.
Right? The mountains, always the mountains. It's internal. And then within it, we have this funny little durable week of this thing, which becomes ephemeral, right? It's like a cherry blossom.
Yeah.
It just comes and returns. So I think that's the lesson. We can do, our human activities can be ephemera within the eternal context of the natural world.
You know, it's very funny because in our group chat, we have 45 people on our team. And this morning when I emailed or chatted to everybody with the day's like kind of missive, we called it Mountain Monday. So
yeah, welcome.
That's exactly right. It's absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Bill. And thank you for the ICEhouse. It's a gift, not just to Hub, but it's a gift to Davos and to everyone who comes here. So we're very excited to see it back again and to see the evolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Stan Stalnaker with Hub Culture here in Davos. Thank you so much.